Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Flores, and I am with Generation Schools Network. We are paired with our special guest, Erin Priest. She is the District Wildlife Manager for Fort Lupton, and we are so excited to have her and welcome everyone that's joining us today. So, Erin, I will pass it over to you. We're so excited to have your insight on this.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Just want to make sure you can see the PowerPoint, correct?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I just have a PowerPoint for you guys, just kind of about, what we do. It's a job with a lot of duties in it, and I don't think people know exactly kind of what we do out on the landscape. So I put together some stuff to show you guys today. So just a little bit about me. I actually went to school at CSU, or at Colorado State University. And I got 2 degrees. I got my first degree in zoology and my second degree in entomology, which is the study of insects. And then I went on to be a certified veterinary technician. And then I also got my wildlife rehabilitation license. And as far as being a DWM, my background's pretty unique. I think I'm the only officer with this type of background right now. So if this is something you guys are interested in doing, you don't have to do it the way I did. There's a lot of different ways to get into this job.
That's awesome.
So I was a vet tech for 10 years. I worked at a clinic that did mostly small animals, which is dogs and cats. And then we saw exotics and wildlife. So things like guinea pigs and lizards. And we did take in some injured wildlife, which is kind of how I ended up where I am today. And back when I was a vet tech, the main things I did were take care of patients that were sick and staying in the hospital. I worked in the lab and ran all the lab work. I helped with surgery and then took emergency appointments. All right. So then after I was a vet tech for a while, I went into wildlife rehab. So I got my license doing that. I'm licensed in small mammals only, so I didn't really learn how to do birds, but so I can do small mammals like raccoons, which they're my absolute favorite, and squirrels, things like chipmunks down there in the corners of marmot. So I got certified in that. And then wanted to be a district wildlife manager. So these are kind of the requirements if this is something you guys are interested in. So you do have to have a degree in some type of biology science. So there's a lot of different options for which degrees you can have, but some type of biology. Wildlife biology is probably the most popular that most people have that are in this job, but things like zoology, like I got, fishery biologies is really popular. And then you can also do some work experience as well if you've done wildlife management. But after you get that wildlife, some type of wildlife or biology degree. If you meet the minimum requirements, then there's some things you have to do before you get this job. So there's an exam you take. It's a biology exam about Colorado wildlife. Then you have to essentially submit an essay or a writing prompt. They do a background check on you. There's also a drug screening. You have to have an oral panel. You do a physical fitness test. They have to make sure you have to run a mile and do push-ups and sit-ups. They do a polygraph on you. You get fingerprinted, and then there's also final interviews. And a lot of this is because it is a law enforcement position, so most of those are requirements for the law enforcement aspect of it. So there are some jobs in CPW that don't require that, but if you want to do law enforcement, then you'll need, the things like the polygraph and the fingerprinting done. So after you get hired, then you go through training. So it's a year-long training. The first 5 months, you're doing training in police academy. So wildlife officers and park rangers can do all the same things that a regular police officer in Colorado can do. Things like you think like traffic stops or, you call the police when something happens. So technically we can do all the same things they do. We just don't do it as often. It'll depend where you're stationed. If you're in a more rural area, you might get called more just because they don't have as many police officers. But here on the Front Range, we don't get called to assist as often as they do where it's out in rural. So you do your 5 months of police academy, and then you train for 7 months with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And that's where you learn the more wildlife specific things that you'll do. So wildlife laws, we do a lot of firearms training, really fun trainings like wilderness survival, land navigation. You had to go get lost in the woods and find your way out. How to sedate wildlife. They tried to drown us by throwing us in a river. We do trainings on like ATVs, heavy machinery, snowmobiles. So we learn everything. in our training year.
Wow.
It's a lot. And then once you get trained, you get essentially assigned a district. I don't know if you can see my mouse there.
Mm-hmm.
My district's 129, so it's this little blue square here. So each officer has a district, and that's what all these colored areas are. And that's the area that you take care of. And then you work with a team. So my team is this blue area, so we're area 2. So I work in this area with all these people, but then this is my specific district.
Wow.
So what do we do on a day-to-day? We have a lot that we do. So kind of our general description is we do a third law enforcement, a third customer service, and then a third wildlife management. And all of these tasks kind of fall under those. So we do drive around a lot. I told our supervisor that in the job description, it should say, do you like driving? And then followed by everything else that you do. Because our areas are so big, we do spend a lot of time in the car. So things like checking hunting and fishing license is what people picture us doing. We do population surveys, teach a lot of classes, deal with bears, we're on call, all of the above. So we do a ton of stuff on our day-to-day. So I'll just go through a couple of those. We do, like here, rescuing wildlife is kind of one of our things we get calls on. So in this call over here on the one side with the owl, this owl had gone into a window well because there were some dead mice in there and it was trying to eat them, but then he couldn't get out. So then we get called. I had to crawl down in the window well, catch the owl, then we assess him for any injuries, make sure there's no wings broken, that he could see appropriately, his legs are all okay. And luckily he was uninjured. So then he got let go about half an hour after we captured him. So that's a nice, easy, good call with a good ending. And over here we have a turkey that actually got onto an oil and gas site, and it kept hanging around and getting on top of all the machinery and things. And we just don't want him to get injured out there. So the oil and gas team helped me catch this turkey and then took it a few miles away to a more appropriate habitat and let that turkey go. This was a pretty cool one. I don't know if you guys have ever seen osprey nests, but they like to put their nests on top of power poles. And this osprey had laid her eggs and made her nest on a power pole and ended up shorting out all the power. So we had to move her nest completely. So they built a whole new platform, went up in the bucket truck, moved this huge nest. While we were moving the nest, had to keep the eggs in my truck with the heat on high because it was cold and make sure they didn't get cold. Went back up in the bucket truck, put the eggs back, and then the picture in the corner is the mom coming back and getting back on her eggs. And they ended up having a successful nest that year. So she did end up hatching out some babies.
Wow.
Other things we do is immobilization, which is essentially sedating an animal, because wild animals, they're not like domestics. They're not used to being handled, and you don't really want to go hands-on with something like a moose without any sedation. So we do have to sedate animals sometimes. And essentially we use a dart gun and we'll administer medications. Then once the animal's asleep, we'll do what we need to do. Any animal that we put hands on, like a bear or a moose or an elk, that is going to get released, we'll give them ear tags. That shows where they came from, and then we can look up that tag and it can show why we moved that animal. So this one here was a moose that was actually in Wellington on the frontage road of I-25. And that's really not a good place for a moose to be. So we ended up getting State Patrol's help. We shut down the interstate. We sedated this moose, gave it its ear tags, and we woke it up and took it back in the mountains where a moose should be, because right next to I-25 is not a good place for a moose. So here are some examples of animals, like if we were to immobilize or sedate them or not. So that first one, she has a metal chair stuck on her neck and somewhere in Estes, and we did end up immobilizing her. We didn't do it right then because if we were to sedate an animal in the water, they're just going to fall asleep in the water, and that is a danger to them. So we waited till the next day when she was away from the creek, sedated her, and got that chair off her neck. The second one is a deer with her leg stuck in a fence. We ended up being able just to cut the fence and let the deer go free. So we didn't have to sedate that deer, which is also really good because it was a super stressed deer. It had been hanging upside down for a while. And sometimes if they get sedatives, then there's a potential they don't recover. So that was good. We didn't have to sedate that second one. The third elk has this rope wrapped around his head, and we did end up having to sedate this guy, mainly because the rope is around its face and neck. So if animals are in danger of where they can't eat, breathe, get around, or, generally it impairs their function, then that's when we'll want to sedate them to get that taken care of. So we got that rope off that elk's antlers. And then that last one, we didn't have to do anything. I don't know if you can see, it's got a little piece of metal stuck on its foot back here. So what we ended up doing was just monitoring that elk, and we never got a call on it again after the first day we saw it. So it was able to get around. It wasn't interfering with its ability to walk. So we left it alone because we like to not interfere if we don't have to.
Mm.
There are a lot of human wildlife conflicts we deal with. Big game damage is if like a bear gets into a chicken coop, or elk are eating somebody's hay. We'll have to investigate those. We do some nuisance wildlife work if the animals are causing damage. A lot of human bear interactions that we deal with, and then roadkill as well. If animals get hit by cars, we try to document where and when, just because it's good data to have, and then we can put in safe wildlife crossings if we get enough data. And then down here, like on this one, if we get an animal like a mountain lion or a bear that gets hit, we do like to collect biological data for that as well. So this mountain lion, I'm pulling a tooth on that because that's how we collect age data. So we would collect the data. We would let the biologist know if it was a male or a female and how old it was. So human wildlife conflicts, this is a good one. I want to show you guys this one. So this bear was by the Loveland Airport, which is by I-25, and that's also just not a good place for a bear to be. So this bear hadn't done anything wrong. It hadn't broken to any place it wasn't supposed to be. It was just in a bad spot. So we ended up having to move this guy. And this is kind of a video of the process. So there's the bear in the tree. It was a neighborhood outside the airport. That's the dart gun. So that's what we use to administer the medications. And then he kind of fell asleep in the tree, so we had to climb up there and get him out.
Wow, that looks like a big bear.
Yep. So we put that pad on the ground so if they fall out of the tree, they're safe. So here we're putting on their ear tags, just so we have identification and we know why we moved this bear. Make sure we always cover their eyes. Then we put a muzzle on their nose, so if they were to wake up, they can't bite anybody. Of course, all the neighbors come out to see what we're doing. There he is in the trap. There's letting him go. So yep, this is just pictures of that same bear. Other things we deal with, sick and injured wildlife. So we generally have about 3 options for these guys. We can either transport them if it's something that can be rehabbed. We can leave it alone, or unfortunately, we do have to euthanize sometimes. A lot of times that's things like deer and elk that have been hit by cars and there's just no chance of recovery. So if we can euthanize, we will, and then we do donate those out so the meat can get used. So we have a list of people that we donate that to. So that's at least a good ending for that deer or elk that got hit. So these are just some animals that we've had to deal with. This little bear, it's kind of hard to see, but he's actually missing all the toes on this foot. With that guy, we ended up just leaving it be. He was able to climb the tree. He was able to get down off the tree. He was with his mom and a sibling, and so his injury wasn't affecting his ability to get around and eat, so we just left it alone. This hawk ended up having avian flu, which is, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's a disease that's affecting waterfowl and raptors, and it's pretty deadly. So that guy Ended up not making it, unfortunately, but it's just something we see a lot. This little guy down here got hit by a car, so I was taking him to the wildlife rehab, but I didn't have my carrier with me, so he had to just ride shotgun in my truck. And then this guy over here has another avian disease that was, it's pretty contagious, so the rehab wanted us to just euthanize because if it gets spread to other birds and they can get sick as well. So we do try our best to save everything we can, but there are some things that unfortunately can't be saved, but the ones that we are able to save really make up for that. Kind of like these guys, these are some of our good stories. There was a big hailstorm out in Brush last year, and it knocked a whole bunch of vultures out of a tree. About 20 vultures got injured, so we had to go collect all 20 of these vultures and then bring them all to rehab so they could get healed up and sent back to the wild. And I had never handled a vulture before, and something I learned is that a vulture's defense mechanism is to just throw up. So this picture is right after this vulture threw up on me. If they get startled or scared, or they're trying to get away from something, they will just vomit and then fly away. So that's a fun fact about vultures. And then this guy over here is a bald eagle that wasn't really able to fly in Boulder. So we were able to catch him. I had the Boulder police out helping me, and we got him to a rehab where they treated him. We do a lot of law enforcement. Like I said, it's about a third of the things that we do. So these are some of the kind of common things that we see. Fishing without a license is very common. Fishing without a PFD, which is a life jacket. We will generally ticket if we ever see this, just because it's a safety issue. We don't want anybody, drowning out there. There's a lot of laws that we check during hunting season, so making sure you have a proper license, no trespassing while hunting, mistakenly killing wildlife, and loaded firearms in a vehicle. That's another one that we always ticket for, just because it's a safety issue and we don't want people to get hurt. If you have any questions about hunting laws and regulations, we have these brochures that come out every single year, and all of our hunting laws and stuff are in those. And if you ever see anybody breaking the law, it doesn't even have to be hunting. Anybody can call Operation Game Thief, and they can report somebody breaking the law, and then we follow up on those. So a couple cases I had here, this little deer somebody was keeping illegally. So it's illegal in Colorado to possess wildlife. So had to go get this deer from this person, and then they did get a citation. This was somebody fishing, and they took way over the limit. They had way too many fish, too many small fish, not the right species of fish they should be catching. So we seized the fish from that person, and then, they received a ticket as well. And up here's a, kind of a good story. So the wild animal sanctuary is in my district. So we have to do inspections and just make sure everything's up to snuff. Their facility was great. They didn't have any violations. It's just cool that we get to go in and see facilities like the wild animal sanctuary and how they're dealing with their wildlife there. We count things. We count a lot of animals. So we count our big game once a year after hunting season is done to see how many are remaining after hunting season and if we have enough tags or too many tags. And we do this a couple ways. Some deer we hunt from helicopter. We count from helicopter. So we got to do some deer counts out of the helicopter. Everything I do in my district, I have to drive. So I count deer from the truck. Then we also count some other animals, like over here are ptarmigan surveys, which I don't know if you've ever heard of a ptarmigan, but they're these teeny little white birds. So I have a little tiny white bird hiding in this bush. So you have to snowshoe through the backcountry and look for these birds. So we do a lot of population surveys and counts, and that's when that biology degree really comes in handy. So we can, know if our ratios are good, if there's enough, male to females, if the young are surviving, things like that. And it's not all terrestrial. We have an entire section of CPW that works with aquatics. So we will also do fish spawns and stuff. So this one was a trout spawn. Essentially, we catch the trout, then we get the eggs from the trout, and we send them to the hatchery. And then the fish will get raised in the hatchery until they're a certain age or length, depending on what they want. And then they get released into Colorado waters. So these are some trout from the trout spawn, and over here is spawning some walleye. And then you can see here, this is a pan full of fish eggs, essentially. So we stir them up and then get them ready for transport, and then they get sent the um, to the fish hatchery. And one of the last things we do that I have listed here is land management. So we make sure that people and wildlife have access to areas where either you can hunt or fish or wildlife watch, or that there's good habitat for the wildlife. There's a ton of properties. So this is just the northeast corner of the state, and these are all properties that we manage and work on. Um, my district, I have Banner Lake State Wildlife Area, which is out kind of past Hudson. This is just a picture of it out there. There's a lot of hunting and fishing out there. So that's just one other thing we do. But if you don't necessarily want to be a wildlife officer, there's a ton of other opportunities with CPW if this is a kind of a direction you're thinking about going. So we have 43 state parks in the state, over 960 species of wildlife we work on. And so we have everything from district wildlife managers, which is what I do. There's state park rangers who stick mainly to the parks, biologists for everything. We have aquatics biologists, we have threatened and endangered species biologists, terrestrial biologists, hunting biologists, property technicians. So if you really like working, with tractors and heavy machinery and doing mowing and fencing, the property techs help with that. The whole aquatics side of the team, customer service representatives that work like in the offices, wildlife technicians. So if you wanted a part-time job or somewhere to start, a lot of students will do wildlife technician jobs during the summer between school. Game damage specialists that work with, specifically kind of those wildlife human contacts, and land use coordinators as well. So they help with if somebody wants to do a project and build something, it'll go through our land use coordinator, and we make sure that there's not going to be any wildlife impacted by what they are going to propose to build. So that was about all I had. So I can take any questions, and then if we have time, I can show some of those other videos at the end.
What's the
Okay,
most unique animal you've ever rescued?
let's see. That's a hard one. We did have, I was off this day, but an officer in our district had a ringtail cat in a kitchen in Longmont. And they're these animals they're native to Colorado. They kind of look like a mix between a squirrel and a raccoon. It kind of looks like a lemur. I have never even seen one in the wild. And then these people in Longmont had one in their kitchen. So one of our officers had to go get it last year. I was not on, or I would have gone, but I've never even seen one. So I think that was pretty unique, and we have them out here.
Wow. Is it for the elk, the bigger that their antlers are, that's their age, or how do they get such big antlers unless they get them stuck in stream and stuff?
Yeah, so generally that's how that works. So they shed their antlers every year. So
Mm.
they're incredible. They grow so fast. So you think they grow that just in a matter of months, and then at the end of the season they'll shed their antlers, and then the next year they grow bigger. So you can tell essentially the age of the antlers because each year that they shed them, the next year they grow back even bigger generally. So the bigger the antlers is kind of how old they are, because each year they'll get more branches on them, and they'll get bigger with each shed. So
What? I didn't know that each year they shed them. I thought they just
Mhm.
kept growing.
Yep. So deer and elk, they'll shed their antlers every year. Our kind of weird species we have in Colorado is our pronghorn. So you'll see they have like kind of a horn antler, but they don't shed theirs. They keep them every year. So they're kind of our oddball.
Wow. And what is the horn? Is it bone? What is that? Yeah.
So the antelope are different because theirs has bone underneath, and then it's like a keratin outer, kind of like what fingernails are made out of. So kind of what you think
Mm.
like rhino horn is made out of keratin. So it's kind of, but it is like a derivative of bone, yeah.
What age do you hire also? Do you know
So
for high
there's
school students?
yeah, so there's not like an age minimum. Well, it's probably 18 and up, but generally it's, after people have gone to finish their college degree. So let's see.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of the summer jobs that you have mentioned, what that looks like for students.
Yeah. So in our area, we call it a YIP. It's an intern. So we have um, interns that come in the summer and they help us out. So a lot of times our interns, because we get so busy, they'll help us set bear traps and things like that. Like if we don't have time,
Mhm.
and then we have things that are called like bear sitters. We'll have our interns go if there's a bear in a tree. A lot of times it's in Boulder. Um, we'll have somebody go sit under that tree and then educate people walking by, let us know what the bear's doing, and then essentially give it a safe pathway to um, leave and then keep people away. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I could not do that though. But the ones that do, if you are interested in this to be in the life of Erin, go for it.
Yes, it's
You
really
do.
cool. Let me see. I have it here, but I gotta pause it. This was a couple years ago in Estes. This guy fell in this pool and wasn't able to get over. It's got that cover on it, so he wasn't able to get out.
Wow.
So then it's like, how the heck do you get an elk out of a pool?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this guy, he's not in a good spot. It's not something we could sedate, really. Like I said, there's some danger sedating if they're in the water. So we have to get them out without sedating.
Wow.
So our officer tried to pull him out. Elk are hundreds and hundreds of pounds, so that didn't work. So then we got the police out there. And turns out two guys are not strong enough to move an elk either.
He's almost to the stairs.
So what we ended up doing is hooking the rope to a truck. You can see it there. And then trying to pull him towards the corner of the pool where the stairs are.
Let's go. Come on. Come on.
He's probably really tired.
Yeah.
Hold up.
Oh,
He's just got to figure out how to get his
All right,
nose up there.
out. 6 more inches.
ooh, I bet that fight was exhausting.
Yeah. And they obviously cut it short, but it's still
Keep it coming.
a long time.
Just a little bit. There we go. Wait till he gets his nose up. All right, 6 more inches.
Oh, he's probably so tired.
Poor guy.
Almost out. Come on. He's finding it. Come on. All right.
Guy just gets into trouble, I guess.
Thank you, Erin, so much for
Yeah, of
sharing that
course.
information. For the students at Next Littleton, if you guys do have more questions, you're more than welcome to enter them in. We still have a little bit more time if interested, but again, it's mind-blowing all the things that we've had Erin also on our career fairs, and she does bring so many different things that you can see and touch and understand better. So we love having Erin come with our students.
I mean, if you guys ever have any questions, we do, like I do ride-alongs. If anybody's ever interested, we have a program for that. If you just want to come, if you have, other school programs we go to. So I do like to take, students out, even if it's just a couple hours. But yeah, if you guys do have any questions, I'll leave my contact information and, we take emails, anything like that. So
Next Littleton, thank you so much for joining us today. And if, again, like Erin said, if you have any questions, you're welcome to email us. I can get her information to you. She's wonderful at career fairs as well. We love having her with us. So thank you so much for your time, and you guys have a wonderful day.